Hey guys, welcome back to the Edit Place. We're back in DaVinci Resolve today, and we're talking about 5 simple color grading techniques that can make things a lot easier on you. Alright, so the first very cool built-in thing here is actually the color tracking. This is one of the key differences between Resolve and all the other programs that I really like. Premiere has something similar where you can track a mask or something like that, but this one really is in a whole different league. So I have this shot here, and as we can see, it's a fine shot and things like that. Now maybe I want to make some face adjustments type thing, so I'm going to make a new node here, and we have a couple different options. One is kind of the mask sort of effect here, so I can go down here, create a new mask, and I'm going to resize it real quick. Just to exaggerate, I'm going to make it pretty bright. All right, so that's the brightness level, right? But as soon as she moves, we can see that mask doesn't go anywhere, so then it's just awkward. So all we have to do here is go under the tracking section right here, and then I'm going to leave pretty much everything the same. We got cloud tracker, clip, everything selected here, and we're just going to hit track forward. You can see it's going to create a bunch of different data points, and that's pretty much it. Now if we click away, if I play back this section, we can see that it keeps that eye perfectly tracked the whole time. Pretty awesome. And then you could simply do the same thing for the other eye and any other component here in the image. Now another thing I want to show you guys is actually DaVinci has a built-in face enhancement tool. So right here under Open VFX on the right hand side, so if you don't see this, just click Open VFX, it'll bring up this window. And about halfway down or so under Resolve FX Refine, we can see there's a beauty one. So if your goal is to soften the skin, then we could add a beauty thing, and it's very nice. You could go crazy with it. Obviously that looks unprofessional and terrible. Reset that and just take it ever so slightly. So now if I turn that layer on and off, you can see it gets rid of the pores and things like that just a little bit. So if you want that, I'm not a huge fan of beauty stuff though. The face refinement is very cool, so I'm going to add that one to it here. And I'm going to hit analyze, and you can see that it's automatically tracking. It's found the nose, found the mouth, the jawline, the eyes, and even though she has a phone in front of her, it does a really good job at understanding where her face would be. Now what's cool is now that I've analyzed, I can turn off the overlay. That way I can see what's actually happening here. And under color grading, there's some cool ones like color boost is always a good one. Obviously you don't want to go too crazy one way or the other. I was pretty happy with that. But then you have all the different aspects of the face that you can go in and retouch. So for example, the eyes, like what we were doing before, the eye light, you can see it's kind of removing a little bit of the bags. Actually has a bag remover, so it specifically looks at underneath the eyes, brighten the whites of the eyes just like I did before, and I don't have to track anything since it already did that. So you can see when I play it back, it's already there. If I want to do some lip retouching, again, I can increase saturation, like if I wanted her to have like lipstick on. And so yeah, you can dive completely crazy into this if you wanted to. Again, that looks kind of silly to me, but you can refine it to look really good and look the way you want it. So if you're doing a lot of model or lifestyle stuff and you don't want to have to track and create masks for each individual thing, something like the face refinement is an amazing tool to have. Now in the search of everything cinematic, I have purposely made the white balance of this incredibly blue and bad. Now I shoot raw, so I can easily go in and just change this back, and everything would be fine. But for the people who don't have that option, I want to show you, if you have something that's really, really blue, or maybe you applied a really, really blue LUT to it, how you can fix that without needing raw footage or anything like that. And it's very simple. Go to under curves right here, and you want to select your blue layer. So you have all your different colors. You have your Luma right here, red, green, blue. And then you can see your histogram down here, and basically you just want to remove blue from the shadows. So if it's in the deep shadows, you can just pull this corner to the right a little bit, and maybe somewhere down here, more in the lower midtones, pull that down as well. And now you can go into the other ones and even play around. Like there's some pretty gnarly green in the highlights. Something like that I think looks fairly decent. And again, you can always use your scopes, right click on here and it'll bring up your scopes panel so you can check things if you want. But yeah, removing blue from the shadows is going to greatly improve anything where you still want that kind of cool look to it, but when shadows have blue in it, it looks really amateur. Now this next one here is all about qualifiers, so I'm grabbing an A-roll clip from a recent video I did on my main channel. Go check that out, link in the description below. Now let's say I want to play around with skin tones, and again I wasn't using the face refinement tool. Qualifiers is another great thing. This little eyedropper down here, it's going to bring up this panel and going to turn your tool into an eyedropper. So basically this is what you will use if you ever want to change like a shirt color or skin tones or eye color or anything like that. Most of the time it's used for like skin tones. So I'm going to select this and we can see on the node on the right that is now showing the mask. We can even using this little magic wand up here and qualifier selected right here, we can see what exactly we're doing depending on where we click. So I'm going to again select my face, going under the qualifier here. You can see that it selected this half of the face, which is what I wanted, but we also got a couple other things as well. You can do a couple things to help that, play around with these different sliders here on the bottom, and they'll kind of isolate things more and more. So that took away some things. And then the blur radius, don't be afraid to literally just blow that out crazy. That way you don't get those weird jagged lines between the masks. I'm going to turn this back off and I'm going to push the gamma to be a little bit warmer. And I'm also going to add a little bit of contrast, bring the highlights down. So now if I turn that on or off, you can see a pretty decent difference there. Now you see the icons on my computer are also being hit. If I wanted to completely get rid of that, especially for something like this where my head's not really moving that much, I'm not moving around, I can apply a mask. And so now it's only going to apply the other effects and the other qualifier within this shape. So if I turn this back on, we can see that the computer screen is totally out because of that mask. All right, so next on the list here is actually taking a look at the LUTs we used. Again, I pretty much like this grade, but maybe I don't want it to be as intense. Once you have a node selected, right here, this little guy here under your key and key input and output, under the gain is where you can actually change the opacity. So this is essentially the opacity slider for Resolve. And so you can see as I lower it down, this is getting pretty much the raw footage. We're at 0 because there's no other corrections or grades or LUTs or anything. So that's 100%. So I talked about LUT intensity on a video on my other channel. And so definitely go check that out. The card will be above. And it may sound super simple, but sometimes not having 100% of an effect makes things more realistic and more just way more professional looking. And the last tip here is actually something recently, which is all about color matching multiple different cameras incredibly easy. So if we go under File and Project Settings and under Color Management, we can see that the current color science by default is DaVinci YRGB. Now what we actually want to change it to for this kind of little trip, and this will not be for everybody and every project, and I'll tell you kind of the pros and cons to it here. Now ACES, which is the Academy Color Encoding System, and yes, by the Academy, this new one essentially is trying to create a base color science for all cameras. That means your GoPro can match your RE to your Blackmagic to your Red, and obviously there'll be different data sets and things like that. It doesn't mean that your GoPro footage is going to look like RE footage. It just means that the greens are going to look similar and the blues kind of on a base level before you do any sort of color grading. And so then under ACES version, you want to make sure you're on the latest one, so 1.1 here. And then if you want to make things easy on you, you can change the output transform to say Rec 709, and now we hit save. And we can see that the timelines have now converted into essentially the Rec 709 using the ACES color science. Now I'm using the same camera obviously between these shots, but if I had, say, like my Blackmagic up here, and then like, I don't know, a Sony FS5 or something like that, it's going to have the base same color, so then I can grade it and match it that much easier. Now, of course, if you keep it the log format and you're a true professional colorist, that is going to be the better route because you're going to have way more flexibility. But if you want to quickly shot match a bunch of different types of cameras, changing to this Rec. 709 transform using the Asus color science is not a bad option. The only downside here is that if I go to my raw settings here and turn them on, I lose my gamma controls right here. I just have to do everything under my primaries. So if you are using B-RAW or anything like that and you try this trick out, I was a little confused at first. I was like, hey, why don't I have access to these? If I switch it back to the DaVinci color science, then I gain access back to those controls. And for now, I just have to do them through the primaries if I go with this. And so there you go. There's a couple unique features of DaVinci that you can easily change and to give you kind of different controls when color grading and color correcting. If you guys want to see more of a basic kind of how I color grade or how to color correct and grade process type video, let me know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to get subscribed. And again, thanks for visiting the edit place, and I'll see you guys in the next video.